Hey, it's Keith Townsend, principal of the CTO Advisor. And thank you again, Intel, for sponsoring this series of videos with the Dell VxRail team. Today, we have on the other side of the camera, virtually, is Bill Leslie, Senior Manager, Dell Technical Marketing for VxRail. Bill, welcome back to the program.
Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.
So in this conversation, we're going to dive into Intel Optane. We've heard a lot about Intel Optane at the recent Best of VMworld. They won for one of the most innovative technologies. But the problem with innovative technology is that adoption can be relatively slow. So Bill, VxRail, talk to us high level, the relationship between VxRail and Intel Optane.
Yeah, so we've got a great relationship with Intel. We work with Intel constantly on bringing out new technologies, harnessing the power of those technologies, and bringing it out to the places where customers are going to get the benefit from it. And I think you're right. There's this early side of the adoption curve right now where there's some hype around it, but we've got some great evidence in terms of the types of performance and actual real world tangible benefits that customers can take advantage of today with VxRail and the Optane technologies.
So my audience already knows I'm heavy into SAP HANA, and I'm familiar with Intel Optane from that world. But when I think about the VxRail platform, I think about replatforming my entire data center around VMware Cloud Foundation, all of the management capabilities of VxRail. I don't necessarily think about these high performing applications. I think about, this is just, this is the general purpose pod. Help me understand where you guys are seeing benefit for putting, these race car engines of memory solutions inside of VxRail.
Well, I think you hit it with SAP HANA. This is a use case that we've been focusing on over the last few quarters now. We've got a 4-socket VxRail platform, or P580N. It's an all NVMe platform that is certified with SAP HANA. And for exactly the cases where you're talking about, where SAP has gone through the retooling, the refactoring to take advantage of these types of devices in those architectures. So a single Optane Pmem in app direct mode, where you're letting SAP take care of all of the replication, all of the protection levels, that single device can deliver over 1 million IOPS. That's transformational types of gains in performance that can be taken advantage of right now with VxRail.
So what's the difference between me doing that and just simply loading the VxRail system with RAM? I can put a few terabytes of RAM into my VxRail. It's a standard second generation Intel scalable platform. It takes a 1.5 terabytes of RAM per socket. So,
yeah, great question, because really what you're changing is how that persistent memory is used. You're actually in the app direct mode. You're using it as a persistent tier of storage rather than as memory. So you're going directly from the VM to the Pmem card. You're bypassing a whole lot of I/O and different operations that traditionally need to take place. I know we don't need to go into all the details on those,
no, we don't.
But by actually going direct to the device, you're able to cut out all kinds of networking challenges, as well as all of the additional operations there, and getting 1 million IOPS per device. A little bit. This is one of those cases where a little bit, it doesn't just go a long way. It goes far, far away in terms of the performance spectrum, and really changes the game. You can actually load up to 12 of these in a single node. 12 million plus IOPS in a single node of VxRail. It's rather, rather powerful in terms of performance for things like in-memory databases.
Well, so as I'm thinking about 12 million IOPS in a single 2U server, that's my mind is kind of catching up to this concept. The advantages can't only be in memory servers. Like, that's a lot of IOPS. And for most of my database needs, that's going to be, storage is no longer the bottleneck.
That's right.
Are there any other examples like SQL or where people are using this as just regular storage level memory?
So the other use case with Optane is the memory mode. And this is something that we just recently are bringing out with VxRail. And think of memory mode as a memory tiering type of use case. So you're still going to use traditional DRAM. And then within vSAN, you're going to use the Optane memory mode as this larger pool of memory at a lower cost point. So you can work on some workload density optimizations within that. And it still delivers near equal performance as you would with just traditional DRAM. So it's a completely different use case than the App Direct, but now it's moving that as a memory class, true memory type of use case with the Optane persistent memory.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, there's two inverse examples. The first example is where I'm taking an in-memory database and using this storage feature of Intel Optane Pmem to basically cache my in-memory rows into this permanent storage that's super fast, bypasses all of the fluff that we built over the years for storage, so that I'm spending less money on my in-memory database size because I have less physical storage, but I'm not sacrificing much in performance. And then on the inverse, if I have a traditional VM environment, and we all know that memory is almost always the bottleneck for most enterprise VMware deployments, I can load up systems with more memory and leverage vSAN to basically provide this cheaper caching layer.
That's right. In the memory mode does provide that additional memory caching layer in tier of memory, which is really, really beneficial, not only to traditional databases, but almost any workload for that matter. VDI environments tend to be very memory hungry as well. Great way to pack even more lower price point memory tier storage into VxRail for those VDI environments.
So we've talked a lot about really big workloads, really big systems, 4-socket systems. Most of us don't have 4-socket systems.
No.
Does this work on a traditional 2-socket system where most of my customers kind of play around with?
It does, Keith, and it even works on some of our one-use systems, right? So depending on whatever your footprint is, your workload requirements, we can satisfy those. We've even seen in the most recent VMware updates, the vSphere and vSAN 7.0 update 1, we've seen almost a 58% increase in performance over 7.0 with our VxRail systems. And that's not necessarily using the Intel Optane. That's just some performance that our customers can very easily upgrade to. There's 36 different versions of VxRail software that they can directly upgrade from if for some reason they haven't been keeping up to date with us, making it very simple for them to just click the one-click upgrade within VxRail and get to the latest and greatest and untap that performance. It's just sitting there ready for them to utilize.
So, Bill, last question. The combination of VxRail on Dell hardware, I understand the value. I get VMware Cloud Foundation. I get this ability to manage devices off to the edge. We've had that in a different conversation. We've talked about that in a different conversation. But tell me, why Optane and VxRail? Like, what's the advantage of this management concept of VxRail and Optane? What am I getting by buying those two together, bottom line?
You're really getting with VxRail the simplicity of management and operations, right? All of our functionality is directly built into the vCenter plugin for VxRail. There's not a separate tool that you've got to learn, a separate UI, different net new workflows that are radically different, or us trying to duplicate what VMware does best with their own software. You're using native VMware tool sets with that. What we're doing is we're taking that system level approach and tying everything from vSphere, vSAN, down through VxRail HCI system software into one integrated experience, so that if a customer wants to add Intel Optane as a cache drive, very easily done. It can get much lower, more predictable performance. They want to utilize it to get the screaming fast performance for one of those in-memory databases. You probably only need a relatively small number of persistent memory devices to meet the performance for your in-memory workloads. Or if you're trying to get that workload density, lower that price point of memory, you can use the Optane Intel technologies for persistent memory using memory mode. It's really a win across the board in terms of utilizing these different Intel technologies so that customers can get the advantage where and when they need it, not just us pushing it down and saying, okay, you've got to buy this, future-proof your data center. The time is now. These technologies are being taken advantage of in VxRail, and our customers are definitely thanking us for it.
So, Bill, Leslie, thank you again for sitting in the hot seat. I know I don't ask the most friendliest questions, even though I'm doing it with a smile. That's it for this episode of the CTO Advisor. Catch us on the web, thectoadvisor.com, me on Twitter @CTO Advisor. Talk to you next CTO Dose video.